broken stud removal, exhaust manifold stud, Chevrolet Chevy small block 5.3, 4.8, 6-liter LS, 5.7 LS1 LS series. And these manifolds got to come off. I'm not looking forward to that. They're for a truck and they probably won't fit my car, so they're gonna have to come off. And the back bolt here is broken, so I'm not looking forward to that. Usually you break 1 or 2 bolts. These things are kind of infamous, aluminum heads. There's the driver's side manifold. I think it'll clean up nice, but wow, she's really dirty. It's gonna be a lot of work if I try to clean it all and paint it. I don't know. I was gonna clean it all and paint it, but wow. So I took the exhaust manifolds off and took this one off and this one off and this one off, but the end ones, the ones on the ends, they were already, see how they're all rusty on the end? Because it was already broken, and I think it had been broken a long time. That's why it's rusty on the end. You're gonna find one on the other side that's actually shiny on the end, because when I turned the bolt out, it actually snapped off. So most of the time there's pressure on the bolt, because when they're torqued down, there's a clamping load, so there's a lot of pressure on them. So if the bolt breaks, it usually the pressure is gone after that. Sometimes they're rusted in there, but these heads are aluminum, so they don't really rust. They can corrode, or the aluminum can pile up in the threads. This one here, all I did was, you can see some shiny lines there. It was in the very back here, and the other one is in the very front. I don't know why the very front and very back, but anyway, all I did was vice grip. Oh yeah. So I took a pair of vice grips and I clamped them on there this way, like that. Try to get as close, try to get as many threads or as much surface area grab as you can, and as tight as you can. So I just clamped it as close to the head as possible without scratching the mating surfaces and stuff. This one feels like it's tighter than the last one. Probably corrosion. Like I said, you want to make sure that the bolt is moving, not just the wrench slipping. Because if the wrench is slipping, you're just going to wreck the outside of the bolt, and you'll never get a hold of it if you wreck it. So clamp on good. Make sure the bolt is moving slowly. If you can't get it to to budge loose, you can try to heat up not the bolt, but the surface that the bolt goes into, because expansion and contraction, heat causes things to expand. So you don't want the bolt to expand because it's already in a tight hole. You want the other part, like the head for example, but you want to be careful heating up things like aluminum and heating up things like heads. You want to be careful you don't warp them or melt the aluminum or whatever. But I'm not going to need any heat because the bolt is coming. I am getting a good grip and it is turning. And it seems to be slowly getting easier. But it's smoother if you go back and forth. If you try to just go and rip it in one direction and then rip it in one direction, you can feel the threads piling up, like the aluminum, you can feel it getting tighter. So if you just work it, you're more likely to save the threads. Aluminum is not as forgiving as iron, I don't think. Like, it's softer, but it's easier to damage it and etc. Well, she's coming out now. Of course, I'm going to hit that sensor, so I can only turn it a little bit at a time. It's coming out smooth now, so I'm just working it out. Ta-da! 2 from the driver's side, and there's 2 more on the passenger side also. Alright, I got 2 more on the passenger side, and they're both right there. One there and one there. This one here, I actually broke it, and the other one was already broken. So this one's shiny on the end because it's a fresh break, fresh cut, and the other one's rusty on the end because it's been broken for a while. So you might be able to tell that this is a fresh break because it's not rusty yet, the bolt I mean, where I broke it. I clamped the vice grips on it and I could not get it to move. So I just tried wiggling it and budging it, and so far the wrench is moving but the bolt is not. I don't really want to strip it all out. So before I twist the wrench and strip what's left of the threads, I'm going to try something different. So I sprayed it with WD-40 and now I'm going to give it a headache. So I'm going to strike the bolt on the end of the bolt, basically where the head would be, and I'm just gonna hope that that'll impact the threads or any pile up on the threads. And if that doesn't work, I can put a nut over top of the bolt, or over top of the stud. The stud is sticking out a little bit, so if I can't get it with heat or can't get it with a hammer or vice grips, you can put a nut over the top of it and weld the nut with like a MIG welder or something, and weld the nut onto the stud really good, and let it cool down some. Let it cool down like 50%, 75%, and then try to back it out with by putting a wrench on the nut. Anyway, I'm going to try the headache method first and give it a headache and see if that helps any. You want to be careful because you got spark plug, you got your mating surface here for your gasket. You don't want it, it's only soft aluminum. You got your dipstick, your spark plug. A lot of this, the spark plug could be easily removed, I suppose. They'll probably get changed anyway, those spark plugs. I really want to give it a good, whack, but it's hard because all the junk in the way there. See if the vice grips still fit. This really awkward place to get the vice grips in. Try to get these vice grips as tight as I possibly can. Tight as I humanly can. I'm not getting as much grip on this bolt because it's not sticking all the way out to grab the jaw here. I'm only getting about half the jaw because the bolt is shallow. But I'm trying to clamp it on there as tight as I can possibly get it. Oh, by hand. Oh my goodness. Oh. Those suckers are on there tight. Now I'm going to try to wiggle it back and forth. Right now the bolt seems to be stuck pretty good. The wrench is moving, but the bolt is not. Alright, that sucker is really on there. I put the vice grips on it, no luck. I hit it with a hammer, no luck. It's funny how these rusty ones that were already broken, it's funny how they're coming out. But the one that I broke, or the one that snapped off on me, it seems to be seized right in there. So this one's moving. This one's coming. It's turning. Once it gets easy enough, I can turn the vice grips this way in line, and I can spin it out by hand instead of trying to go around and hit the spark plug or whatever else might be in the way. Oh. Aluminum is tricky. Alright, I got 3 of them out, the 3 rusty ones. Now just this one shallow one, it's going to be a pain in the butt. I'm kind of at my final steps. I got the little torch out right now, and I'm really hoping that this will do it. I've got some extractors, but they're not quite small enough for this bolt. the exhaust studs they use on these LS motors, they're not as big as what they used to use. The studs they used to have on the small block Chevys, like the 305s and 350s, they used to have a 3/8 inch stud, which is substantial. But these ones here, they're small thread, small stud. I'm gonna put a little bit of heat on the head. You want to move quickly while it's hot because aluminum dissipates heat very fast. It won't stay hot for long. There she goes! Yay! It's moving. Yes. Okay, it moved. That's a good sign. Now I'm gonna find my WD-40. See if I can get it to come out any further. Okay, the bolt is moving. I think thanks to the heat, I think. Feels like it's getting tighter, piling up. Might have to heat it up again. This one does not want to move. It's moving, but wow, she is tight the whole way. She's not gonna come easy. I think my vice grips are gonna slip off here in a minute. Yep, there they go. Oh man, that's the one that I broke. Or it broke on me when I tried to remove it. When I removed the manifolds. The other three came right out with the vice grips. This one here, I've heated it up twice with the small torch. Look at all that rust and corrosion. It's not even, it's an aluminum head, and aluminum doesn't rust. But there's multi-layer steel gaskets and steel bolts. To be honest, steel and aluminum, they don't really go that well together. So my last resort is going to be either the big torch or welding a nut onto the stud. Just weld a nut right on there, and then I can actually get a hold of it. But whether or not your weld is strong enough to hold on to like that, those threads are piled up and they're tight and corroded, so it take a pretty good weld to hold on. Well, it's the next day and my battery died on my camera, but I got sick of trying to get a hold of it with the vice grips. This one was really short and it was hard to get a hold of it. Even though I got it moving or turning with the vice grips, eventually I lost my, the grip on the tiny little rusted stud that was sticking out. So I got sick of messing with it, and I went and got a nut, and I put the nut over the stud, and put it over the stud so there was it was about halfway inside of the nut depth. And then I took the welder, the MIG welder, and I just turned the amperage up and the wire speed down, and welded in there for a good 5 seconds or maybe even more, and got everything red hot and welded together. The nut was glowing red when I finished, and then I let it cool down a little bit, put a socket on it, on the nut after it cooled down, and she come out. Oh, these motor mounts are looking pretty sexy. The switch to black, I don't really know if I'm coming or going, but it's black now. eBay DNA. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I'm not used to all this shiny stuff and with all this junkyard stuff. Wow, you're a good boy. You can hold it with your paws, just like a human. Alright, interior light's on, so that's a good sign. Fuel pump's pumping.